Today, we're looking at the most feared UFC fighters in every division, and because it's a little bit too obvious and I want to stir up some controversy, each of us are going to be picking two fighters from every division instead of one. Dylan, for Flyweight, hard to be a scary guy when you're 125 pounds, but who do you have?
First guy having Flyweight, Kai Kara France.
Okay, that's the same person who I have.
And my second fighter, I almost called him Tai Tuivasa. And my second fighter is Tatsuro Taira.
Okay, that's different. I went with Pantoja for my second fighter.
People aren't afraid of Pantoja.
Dude, you know if it's going 5 rounds, Pantoja's going to scrap the whole time.
Has he ever lost a 4th or 5th round?
Probably not. I think Kai Kara France was a lock just because of
he was the obvious choice.
How my first round finishes. And then the second one, I was like, am I going to go with Brandon Royval? Not really. Brandon Moreno, no. And then anyone further down, I'm like, I don't even know who these guys are.
Yeah, the gap between France and the rest of Flyweight is huge in terms of most feared.
Yeah, so I just went with Pantoja. And I tried not to pick too many champions for the rest of the list because it's like,
obviously those guys, but there's some of them that are just like, those guys are scary.
Okay, let's move on to Bantamweight next. Who do you have for your first Bantamweight fighter?
My first Bantamweight fighter, the next guy up, Umar Nurmagomedov.
Okay, that's also who I have. I think we might have a double same pick here.
And then my second Bantamweight was Sugar Sean O'Malley.
Ooh, I went with Peter Yan for my second
thought about
pick.
Peter Yan, but everyone wants to fight Peter Yan.
It does seem like he's that gatekeeper to the title.
Yeah. You know, you beat Yan and then you're basically there at the title.
Yeah, I just think he is like so well-rounded that he gives every single fighter a tough matchup. It doesn't matter if you're good on the ground or the feet, he can do everything.
My honorable mention for Bantamweight was like someone way lower down. Song Yadong. The boxing he has, like that's dangerous.
It was crazy how he was piecing up Peter Yan in the first round and then just fell apart.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites. I just wish he would do a little bit better.
I wish he'd fight more as well.
Yeah, dude doesn't fight. Like, why is he not fighting in Macau? Also, you got to think about 25 minutes of Garbrandt. Imagine he goes on like a Dan Hooker resurgence run.
It's too late. It's way
It's
too
never
late.
too late. Actually, his chin is just toast.
Never back down, never what?
All right, Lucas, moving on to Featherweight. Who's your first guy in Featherweight?
My first guy in Featherweight, I had to pick him because he's been on an absolute tear right now. He's fought so many times in this past year. It's, of course, Diego Lopez.
I also had Diego Lopez.
I think people are genuinely scared of how much power this guy has.
I don't think Volk wants a Lopez fight before the title because that's too risky for Volk.
It's way too risky. So Diego Lopez was my first lock, but my second pick, I had to do it. I had to pick Ilia Topuria.
I also went Ilia.
Okay.
But Featherweight is just so deep in terms of the power in the division, like pound for pound, most powerful division. So I also considered guys like Josh Emmett after what he did to Bryce Mitchell.
And even Holloway.
Holloway, yeah.
He hasn't lost to a featherweight in since 2014.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So I think the only problem with Holloway is he's a nice guy.
Holloway lost to Volk.
Yeah,
outside of Volk.
Yeah. I was thinking of that. You've seen that one graphic where
yeah.
it's like hasn't lost to a featherweight other than Volk.
And I've actually been doing research, like rewatching all of Max's fights, preparing for 308 and all the content we're making for it. And like, that's one thing. My biggest note is Max is too nice.
Yeah.
The way he'll knock a guy down and he's like, he won't go and finish that fight. And like in the Korean Zombie fight when he didn't go and finish him right away, and then he took him into the headlock.
I think that's a good point. And I like how Ilia, I watched their like face-to-face interview. I like how he's playing the bad guy. We need this.
You have to. You can't play the good guy against Max. Even Volk had to play a little bit of a bad guy against Max Holloway.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because he's probably the most likable guy in the whole UFC.
Other than maybe like Whitaker.
No, Max is more beloved.
Okay.
Maybe the only guy I could say is like maybe Dustin or Charles.
Charles, yeah. Charles fan base goes crazy. Okay, so we're done with featherweight. Let's move on to lightweight. Who's your first lightweight pick?
My first guy for lightweight is a guy who is on a resurgence. I went with Dan Hooker.
Ooh, are people scared to fight him though? Look, Moicano said it's easy money. He's like a turtle in a tree. How is he in the top
Speaking
5?
of Moicano, that's my second guy. I didn't
Really?
want to go with Islam because that's too safe. He's the pound for pound number 1. Moicano is dangerous. And maybe I'm extra scared with Moicano because he's supposed to fight Patty next. And Patty's my number 1.
Yeah.
And I think that's a tough matchup for both of them. You know, like I think that's a pretty 50-50 fight there.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit scared of Moicano right now. After seeing what he did to BSD too. Oh, that was ugly.
I think Moicano is a crazy difficult matchup for someone like Patty. And if Patty can get that done, I think I think his stock should go through the roof. If he can get a guy, if he can finish someone like Moicano, that's insanely impressive.
Yeah, so I didn't go with any of the guys at the top of lightweight just because, like, of course everyone's going to be scared of Poirier and Islam.
Yeah, I don't even know. Poirier would be kind of scary to fight just because he's been in the game so long. You know, he has a dog in him.
Yeah.
So my first pick, I also went with Moicano. Just because of what he did to BSD.
And what he's been doing after right now on his podcast, just calling everyone out.
He flames people.
Dude, he has no chill.
I think more fighters should like have their own kind of outlet like that.
And it's like what I want to see. I don't want to see these fighters who are all sponsored, doing whatever UFC wants. Moicano does not give a F about what he's talking about.
And that's the best part. And then my second fighter, it's a little bit close to the top. I went with Justin Gaethje. Just because he can KO you at any second and he likes to get hurt. So it's like you're kind of scared to go in the ring with him because you know he's like excited to get punched in the face.
Gaethje's just not the same post Holloway. Like I know. Like pre Holloway, yeah. Like
he lost aura.
Yeah, so much aura.
I was gonna pick Islam, but I was like, yeah, obviously you're gonna be scared of a 26-1 Dagestani
that
fighter.
one was too obvious.
Yeah.
And it's not like he's like scary, you know?
Yeah, because he is very respectful. So all the Dagestani fighters are. Yeah. But that little Ikram freak getting KO'd brings me happiness.
All right, moving on to welterweight. I am probably 99% sure we have the same two fighters.
No.
What?
I didn't go for that, the second one that you're thinking of.
Okay, let's see. Who's your first one?
My first one, of course, Shavkat.
Yeah, you couldn't go anyone besides Shavkat for most feared fighter. He might be the most feared fighter in the UFC. He is scary.
Yeah. Look, I'm going to pull back the curtain on these videos. Sometimes we make these lists like a week in advance before we film. And then I go back and read my list. I'm like, why did I write that?
Dude, the amount of times I've changed stuff on the fly, like, I'm just like, no, we're not doing that.
So I'm going to just stick with this pick because I can't think of anyone else. For my second welterweight pick, because I didn't want to go JDM, which is what I think you have.
It is what I went with.
You're predictable.
I don't know the last time we had a welterweight video, like talk about welterweight, and I didn't pick Shavkat and JDM together.
Watch them both lose their next fights.
That would throw off all of our predictions.
I went with Kamaru Usman.
Okay.
Because, look, he did get called out with Buckley, so maybe that's a bad take from me. But I still think he has somewhat of an aura. And I think that he is being underrated right now. He went up to middleweight and lost to Chimaev on short notice. Fair enough. That's kind of what I expected. And he made it a super close fight. It arguably could have been tied. And then everyone in welterweight, I don't know. Like Ian Gary, I'm not going to pick. JDM was a shout, but he hasn't proven enough to me. Gilbert Burns just got destroyed by Sean Brady. Sean Brady's too much of a weirdo. Leon, like, come on. Are you going to pick Leon?
No.
To be scary? Bruv. Headshot dead, bruv.
All right, moving on to middleweight. Who's your first middleweight, Lucas?
My first middleweight is someone who isn't even ranked very high, but is very scary. It's Khamzat Chimaev.
I went with Khamzat as my first guy. Just because I think that the low ranking adds to his scariness.
Yeah, it's like he's moving up 10 spots if he wins this next fight.
But in reality, he's at the same level as those top guys. He just hasn't fought enough to have his ranking that high.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, he beat Kamaru Usman.
Yeah.
Can't really. He's not a fraud.
Yeah, imagine being Whitaker and you're going to lose to the 13th ranked guy. Like, what does that do for Whitaker's ranking? Like, is that going to move him to the middle? Like, below like a cannoneer? Like, obviously not.
No, but I think it'll genuinely move him down one place.
Yes, it just looks really bad.
Yeah.
Without knowing the backstory of who he was actually fighting. Like, oh, the number 3 guy lost to 13. Same thing with like Ortega versus Lopez. You know, it looked on paper, it seems extra bad for Ortega to lose to Lopez, but it really wasn't that bad. Like the level that they're at.
And Umar versus Sandhagen.
Yeah, exactly.
That's another one where it went from like 12 to 3. So I think Khamzat's very scary. And I think that Rob is probably the only person who was willing to take that fight. Like Sean did not want that fight.
No.
But Sean is my next pick.
Ooh, I went with Rob for my second guy.
Oh, that's good. I think I went with Sean because you know you're going to just get jabbed up at range and it's not going to be an enjoyable fight. Having to game plan for a fight against Sean Strickland where you know his plan, he does it every fight, but he's just very skilled at it. I don't think a lot of people want to take that fight.
Yeah, it is a tough fight, especially to prepare for. Like, although you do know what's going on, it's the same thing as like if you're fighting Poatan. You know what's coming. For the most part, except for when he mixed in those head kicks.
Yeah, but it doesn't make it easier.
No, it doesn't make it easier. Like, he's just, like, so good and so technical that it's tough to beat him.
Exactly. So I think, wait, who's your second one?
Rob.
Okay, Rob.
I think especially coming off that Ikram KO, like Rob's coming in scary. He's here for vengeance.
It reignited his stock a little
Is
bit.
Whitaker Batman?
Okay, let's move on to light heavyweight. There is an obvious pick, which I had to go for. It's a champ, Alex Pereira.
Obviously, I had Pereira too. The second one was tough, though.
The second one was tough because Pereira has stolen a lot of the aura from those top guys.
I really considered Roundtree after that fight because I think he gives those top guys at light heavyweight, like a Jamal Hill or a Yuri, trouble now.
Every single one of them.
Yeah. I went with Carlos Ulberg.
I went with Carlos Ulberg too. Yeah.
He's moving up.
He's scary, dude. His power and his technique and just his like overall demeanor.
His speed.
Yeah.
He looks like a NFL player.
That's a good show. Maybe like rugby. All right. So Carlos Ulberg, we both had that. That's surprising.
I think we're both pretty high on him.
Yeah.
I think we both think that he's kind of the only hope really outside of
Oezdemir.
Yeah.
Oezdemir could pull off a decent upset at Macau because they're fighting.
Yeah.
I'm scared. Because Oezdemir looked good in that Johnny Walker fight.
He did.
He looked dangerous.
But yeah, Ulberg's the 31-year-old's the young guy of light heavyweight. So.
Crazy. Okay, let's move on to our last division. We got heavyweight. Who do you have as your first person for heavyweight?
The first one obviously has to be Tom Aspinall.
Yeah, I went with Tom Aspinall as well.
And then my second guy is a guy I'm really high on right now. I went with Volkov.
Okay. He is scary.
I think he's gonna beat Gon. I think what he did to Pavlovich wasn't like that impressive, but the fact that he beat Pavlovich, looked decent in that fight for it being such a trash fight.
He looked good in that fight.
Yeah.
Like he played his game plan, right? There wasn't like any moments where I was like, oh, this fight's going to get finished.
Yeah.
He's going to finish it.
He also survived 3 rounds with Pavlovich
Exactly.
when no one had survived 5 in like a 5-fight span.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just think that Volkov's, I'm pretty high on him right now, and he's pretty scary. And like, who else was there really to go with?
Well, there was someone who Tom Aspinall's destined to fight, John Jones.
Yeah, but I'm soured on him.
I know, probably more scary to women than men, but
Hey, yo!
I don't even know. The John Jones jokes are getting old now, you know?
Just wait till we read the John Jones fan fiction.
Yikes, that might already come out. I don't know when
It might have been out.
Yeah.
But
if it's not, or if you haven't watched it, we're going to be reading Dana White and John Jones fan fiction. I don't know how it's going to go. We haven't filmed it
we
yet.
might get blacklisted by YouTube. So
yeah, we got reported once and I got kind of scared for the channel. And then some dude in our comment section was like, oh, this isn't like a real tier list. I'm going to report you. And I have like good standings with the algorithm. I'm like, what do you even mean?
dude, I had an Instagram beef with a guy and he was like, oh, I'm reporting. I was like, okay, bro, go report the Instagram account with 50 followers.
We don't
like,
care about that.
like, do it, bro.
Okay, if you guys are excited for UFC 308, we have a whole bunch of content ready for that. And then after that, we have a crazy amount of Christmas content.
We are planning out the next 3 months and it's just gonna be banger after banger every single day on the Dotson's Corner channel. So you better subscribe and buckle in for the ride, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
See ya.